Okay, here we go.
Hello, Diablo community. Welcome to the first ever Diablo 4.
I guess I could move my
Campfire
camera
chats.
around.
Now, this is not
First ever.
This is not a live stream.
This is not. Well, this is.
Even though it's live.
It is live.
It's not a dev stream. It's not a dev stream.
It's not a developer update live stream.
Right.
As you guys know, this is a little bit different than what we had before. We still will have developer update live streams, but Campfire Chats, this is kind of a new show for us. We wanted to get an opportunity to get in front of the community and use this as a way of being able to talk with you guys whenever we
Let me know if I need to turn it up a little bit.
And in a casual format. So don't expect a lot of like trailers or videos and so forth in this one. We still will have developer update live streams. Our next one is going to be.
So yeah, this is going to be really telling.
We are most definitely going to have more
if,
Campfire Chats here in the future.
Depending on what they
And with
say
those
here,
developer update live streams,
and the
we will
second
get
most
those
telling
big
thing is going to be
announcements
Season
and
1 when we get to it.
reveals and us going into more detail about big updates that might be coming up.
Until they,
in the future.
you know,
But
until
for Campfire
after
Chats,
Season
we
1, I'm
wanna use
holding
this
my
format to kind of chat with the community
biggest, you know,
and
like
make sure that you all get an
review
opportunity
type
to actually
status
hear
thing.
from us and talk to us a little bit more often.
I still think my brand, like I was saying, instead of if we keep the seating arrangement instead of between two ferns, be between two jerks, but he wouldn't go for it.
Rod made up this joke literally 30 seconds ago, so.
Like, aren't you supposed to make up jokes on the fly? Like, what do you like script all your jokes?
I
So
mean,
you workshop them?
I mean, it
You
didn't
go
work
like,
30 seconds ago. It clearly
You
is not
know,
working
sometimes
now.
you have to be funny off camera and then try to be funny on camera. You know, it doesn't always. The magic has to happen when it happens, Adam.
Well, they're definitely doing this live.
That did happen.
They're definitely doing it live.
This is a campfire.
Yeah. And we have to get we actually have to get a campfire in
You
here.
do, or at least a flickering orange light.
And then
movie magic.
Well, a flickering light as opposed to a real campfire, so we don't burn down everything. And then
That's security watch we allow.
And then suddenly everyone will hate us. But we.
I brought s'mores.
You did.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I brought a version of s'mores. Like, I wanted Oreo s'mores, and I got Target like gerbated me, so I'm like, I have the Target brand s'mores flavored cookies. So if we want to really get into the campfire notion, we could eat s'mores while talking about the game.
Rod just wanted to eat
I just
on
wanna eat
camera.
cookies. You don't get a body like this without eating cookies, Tiffany. Like, come on.
Rod also has explained to us 3 or 4 different times about his unsuccessful attempts at buying s'mores.
I had a lot of desire to acquire Oreo s'mores last.
It's been a morning.
S'moreos.
S'moreos.
I'm sorry.
It's been a morning, everyone. Yeah, there we go. There it is.
But I will drown my pain with Target brand s'mores cookies.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, while Rod is doing that, we do want to talk about launch and how that went. Obviously, D4 is now out in the wild. We had a really great launch. I mean, like it's. We know the community's been really amped about the game. Reviews have been really good. You know, it's been a couple weeks since launch itself, and also like huge shout out to the team here, the live ops team, Tiffany here. By the way, I haven't done any intros.
You didn't even introduce
I
people.
didn't
You're a
introduce
terrible
This is
host.
completely
This is why it's
unscripted.
between two jerks. You didn't even introduce people.
Awful. All right, let me do that first before we
Did
actually.
you just make Joe Shelley facepalm?
It's the s'mores thing and the really bad joke. It's just
Can I
throwing me
crinkle the
off.
plastic while you do?
Right next
Yeah,
to your mic.
Exactly.
Right next to
And- yeah, as you like bite into the plastic and rip it off and so forth.
Just introduce
Well,
the people.
All right. Well, we have Joe Shelley here, who's the game director for Diablo 4. We have Tiffany Watt here, who's our associate production director for Diablo 4, and then of course Rod Ferguson.
The notion
S'moreo connoisseur.
Yeah, the S'moreo.
You know, as I look at my
The-
gear, I really
beyond
hope they address
just
the.
associate production. Like Tiffany's.
If you
previous
can't trade with
sphere of
people, at
influence,
least be able to
your
put gear on your
link of
alts.
control,
That's
your-
one of the
your-
things I hope they
the
cover.
things-
For
like,
goodness
live
sake.
ops is your thing, right? That's kind of the thing.
Yes, it's one of the things I'm very passionate about. I work with a very, very large live ops team that goes beyond just the Diablo 4 team. So definitely congratulations to everybody across Blizzard that's been supporting us. Lots of time spent in the war room. Lots of time with Adam. Adam was
Which is, you know, it's a penalty unto
a
itself.
penalty. Yes,
It's
is the worst
absolutely
part.
awful.
No, it was really exciting to work with people across the globe. So lots of Zoom chats, but also a physical war room here on campus. And it was just really cool to finally launch this game, work with so many people to bring it to so many players. So congratulations to everybody, and I'm really glad that everybody is playing.
Yes.
Yeah, I think like we have sort of in a way a of a great game and a great launch, right? Like the notion of sometimes you can have a really awesome game and the launch can kind of get in the way of it. You don't get to experience that great game the way you want to. And so I think
It did launch
the
pretty
two
well.
great
I
people to
didn't
represent
run
the,
into really
that,
any issues.
90 rated game and then the ability to play it since it was launched. So it's
There were
it's
some
awesome.
issues, but
yeah, thank you so much to
yeah, I
everybody who
mean,
play. We just
compared
crossed,
to
350
other
million
Blizzard
hours of
launches,
play, which is phenomenal.
Pretty good.
And very exciting. So again, thank you so much. And part of this conversation, I think, really is about that. Like, what happens to a game that gets 350 million hours of play against it? And so, obviously when you're making the game, you can't apply 350 million hours of playtime against it to find, oh, maybe this balance isn't quite what we wanted, or this feature isn't working quite the way we want. And so we wanted to take
one
this
beta was
opportunity to
definitely
kind of talk
bad.
about,
But yeah, I
now
mean,
that
for the
we've
most part,
seen it
yeah.
out there for, by the way, it's
Very
only been
smooth.
10 days. And, we talk about the Diablo 4, this launch is really just the beginning of our journey with Diablo 4. This is something we're going to support for years to come. We're working on seasons. We're working on expansions. Notice that was a plural word. And so all that stuff is going into the future. And so the fact that we love the feedback, we're on day 10, and and that's something that we're really this is the kind of stuff we're focused on. I do like if I can stay on my soapbox for just 1 second. Can I stay on my soapbox?
Yes.
I do want to I think one of the conversations we can have is around the expectation around changes, because I find
Okay, here we go.
in a live service like this, in Tiffany's world, the notion of a hot fix, which is, how would you describe to somebody who maybe doesn't understand, whenever Adam's we're doing another hot fix, what is a hot fix from a player's perspective?
So there's a lot of issues that we are able to hotfix on the server, whether it's server code or server data. And those are ones that generally we can turn around a little bit quicker. Obviously, we want to make sure that the fix is solid, doesn't break anything else in the game, that our QA team has an opportunity to run through it and ensure that if we roll it out, when we roll it out.
I do not want to look at Chad right now. Chad's probably popping off with them saying that.
Improves the game and fixes the issue that we've come across. We also have the opportunity to do client fixes. Those ones
Proves the game.
requires an update to the actual player's client.
That
In
one
those
probably
cases,
is getting
for the
some
most part,
spicy
they're
chads.
seamless so that players can get that change while they're playing the game. I'm sure you've noticed sometimes when you're logging out that your Battle.net client will pick up an update, or you'll pick it up on your console. So the next time that you log in and play Diablo 4, you pick up that client update. Hotfixes are seamless. So as you're playing and you're doing server transitions, as you're going through the world, you'll automatically pick up that update. In both cases, should be seamless, and something that we work very, very hard on. Client fixes tend to take a little bit more time to get out to our players. We want to treat all of our players. I mean, I'm a console player myself. I know that Joe Shelley plays on console. Rod Ferguson plays on console.
And PC.
And PC. Super important that we get these fixes out to our players at the same time so that everyone that plays Diablo 4, regardless of how they're playing, can experience the same game and the same quality of experience.
I think for the client, what we call the client, so the way you're playing on your actual device, that because we support multiple platforms, we have to often go through certification, and so that's one of the things around pacing that we have to oftentimes pre-plan out what we're fixing. And so hot fixes are stuff we can kind of do on the fly. It doesn't require a certification pass. Again, it's meant to be seamless. So occasionally we'll have some hiccups but it's sort of philosophically, it's something that we decided as a team, that rather than bringing the whole game down for an hour to roll out a server change, we would do sort of these sort of rolling changes. And 9 times out of 10, no issues. Occasionally, based on just the scale, we haven't worked.
Okay, well they're not necessarily going over the philosophy of hot fixes that I was hoping. They're just describing what they're doing for hot fixes.
During launch that. But our intention is to keep the game up all the time and just try to. But that being said,
I mean, literally that.
Like I said, we often
keeping
wanna
the game up all the
plan
time is pretty
well
much all
in
that's
advance, 'cause
been
we have
said
to,
here.
QA it. It's not like we can turn. That's one of the things I feel like the feedback is I have this problem. I want to see it fixed tomorrow, and you're like, I would love to do that for you, but we have to go through CERT and we have to QA it and we have to do all this work, and so we already have a big, real patch coming. And so that's something that's gone through certification.
We get
It's
some,
out there. It's going to address a lot of things.
notes
including
on what the
performance
real
issues.
patch is. Like,
And even we're
tease
it's
us
so
a
big,
little
we're
bit,
actually talking about
please.
there's the potential we may actually choose to have a maintenance window and say, like, we're going to bring the whole game down. We're going to apply this big patch, and then we're going to bring it all back up. Like, you have an artifact of said patch, do you not?
I do.
Am I ruining your agenda, by the way? Did I jump way ahead?
Slightly, but it's okay.
It's a campfire talk. It's a campfire chat.
Campfire chats. In fact, we have been working on a pretty large client patch.
Chonky patch.
It's very chonky. Chonky is the perfect way of describing it. That addresses a lot of things, and this right here is actually it's 13 pages.
I like
but
the
it's
sound
not
of
done
it,
yet. But it is just an early preview of kind of what we're putting together.
Wait, literally
I have
13
it here.
pages?
We probably won't go into detail of it all, but we will have it posted, obviously, when the patch does actually hit. But we do have a lot of different topics we did want to talk about.
Which are pre-this. Like,
yes.
we're talking about stuff that
Exactly.
actually reacting to what's going on.
So this
as
big
opposed
patch
to
is
things we already
pre-season
knew
1,
we
though?
wanted to fix.
And the other thing I wanted to at least let other people know is we were in this initial launch window, so hotfixes were coming super quick, at a rapid pace. Because we're trying to, when you have this many players hitting the game, a lot of things kind of crop up, and we were wanting to kind of get those hotfixes out. Same with the small client patches. I know a lot of people are going but it said further bug fixes and stability. A lot of that stuff is on the back end to make sure things keep up with players, and we keep stability on the actual servers as players are playing over the weekend, and we have a lot of traffic and things like that. So
Yeah,
There
I
has
think that's a
been
good point.
unfortunate
When you
DC
say
deaths,
something
for
like
sure.
Further bug fixes and stability. That's not include. It's not like that bug.
Like the
fix
first
includes,
hardcore
a change
100
to
died.
whirlwind
That
or
is,
something. It's like
that's
some bug with
to a DC.
meme
That is yikes.
comprehensible to our engineers got fixed, right? And so it ends up not being very useful to go into a lot of detail about those. But anytime there's something that's like, oh, we changed the barbarian, that we call that out.
yeah, if there's player-facing stuff, we'll most definitely end up calling that out. In regards
It's
to
probably spicy to that one.
some at least how launch has gone and feedback that we've gotten from the community.
I mean, my problem is the things they've
a lot
nerfed
of different topics
has also hit
within the
lower
community
level
itself.
players.
People just chatting with us or
Well, I
hitting
mean,
us
I
up on
think,
social media.
I think it's one of the interesting aspects is I wanted to create this meme of we want a balanced game where there's no meta and every build is viable, and everybody's like, yay! And they're like, we've reduced the power of this class, and we're like, what's going on? Table flipping, what we have a philosophy of as part of balancing the game, whether that be the world or the classes, there will be pluses and minuses that have to be applied.
I mean,
to
personally,
the game,
I think nerfs are
and the
fine.
notion
I
of,
think nerfs
oh, look,
are.
I
yeah.
remember Destiny 2 had
You
loot
definitely
cave, and we're
need
like, "There's a
to,
loot cave. Let's just sit
like,
here and farm loot, and we're having so much fun. It's
have
Christmas
some
morning
nerfs.
all day long, and that can't persist. For the good of the game, that has to not exist at some point, right? And so that's a problem that they fixed, and you understand eventually why they did that. I think there's some of that when we have 350 million hours playing against the game, and we go across your intentions from a design perspective about how do you want players to?
But
be
don't hit the
gaining
lower
XP
end player
and sort of
though.
growing their levels.
That's
and
the other
kind
thing.
of what is their path for? It felt like what we started to see was
Like
that
when they're lower
a
level,
player
the
pattern
experience
that
should
was
not be bad
not
because
ideal. It was like
a
player
nerf
that
that's
had,
happening
that
to
you
somebody at
wanted
the
to
top
sort
end.
of- that was being revealed through play, or that amount of play.
Yeah, so that's generally true. The way I would talk about it is that, and we've talked about consistently throughout development, that our goal is to have a lot of choice for players.
Right.
Both in terms of being able to having lots of good choices for where you're going to level or acquire loot, and also in terms of your character having lots of choices, right? And so, sometimes people will say well, can't you, anytime something is too strong, can't you just buff everyone else?
Right.
And while in theory you can do that, when you have many classes and many builds, and you have one thing that is too strong, the process of buffing everything else, A, is likely to result in more balance issues because you're changing many, many things at once. And B, you can very quickly run into a place where you have, 65,000% on Whirlwind
Right.
or something.
Right.
You know, and it can get sort of crazy.
You're always just chasing that power.
So
Which
yeah,
is why I
mean,
agree with
sometimes we
nerfs.
have to
But
make
again,
changes,
when
like
you're
we
hitting
have
the
to
level
make, so.
10 bar with the same nerf, that and then their
our
experience feels
philosophy is to
way worse
prioritize
or a
fixing-
bad
to
experience.
Prioritize improving
That should be,
choice by
you know,
looking at
nerfed in
things
a better
that are
way.
not working and making them better. Now, it hasn't felt like that in the last 2 weeks.
Right.
Right. You know, when I came here today, I was thinking about. I don't have a shirt like this, but I thought about like getting a shirt and then writing it's time for the buffs on it.
We can make you one.
I didn't
Joe.
do that, but
I
it
mean,
is-
Nightmare
it
Dungeons
is
need
a
to be
buff.
super
that's the
buff.
add-on.
Like, if they just super buff Nightmare Dungeons, I mean, not like ridiculous, but like
You're never
in
invited
comparison to
one
what
of
they
these.
are, they need a huge buff.
But seriously,
Then
you
yeah,
know, I think we
the
have,
loot cave that they were talking
some-
about would have
some
been
things we wanna
fixed
go
to
over
begin with.
here
We do.
that the community has called out.
I mean,
uh,
maybe a
through
couple
through
places needed a
various
nerf, but yeah.
formats, through videos and posts.
Videos, posts on our forums, which we really appreciate. Anyone who posts on our forums, we are completely scouring our forums for feedback and so forth. Posts on social media, on Reddit, conversations that people are having in videos. You know, sometimes we have content creators that are actually creating like videos that are talking about specific topics. So we've kind of compiled a good list of like hot topics that I think that the community has been wanting to hear more about, and we do want to go through those and actually talk
Let's
about
go.
them a little
Let's
bit
go.
in
The meat of
detail.
it.
I think probably
My body's ready.
The biggest one I think that people have been talking about the most has been around dungeons. As you guys know, like we've had a few hot fixes. And
I don't care about the
keeping me
dungeons.
four in a
Nightmare
row.
Dungeons. Let's go.
Yep.
Totally understand. Of hot fixes where we do, where we had a line where we did mention that we were reducing like elite pack levels and so forth, or adjusting them specifically in certain dungeons, with the goal to be, you know, longer dungeons having more elite packs, and of course shorter ones having, you know, less than what a longer one would specifically have. But I would say like we've really gotten to kind of like a new baseline now of
Yeah.
like where we are.
It seemed like it was a contrast thing, like I think Joe can speak to, but like I think the expectation was, oh, Nightmare Dungeons are the end game. That's the place I'm going to go, you know, quote unquote farm. But right now, the normal dungeons, because of the elite density is so high, it's better to farm a normal dungeon than it is a Nightmare. And so they seemed like they were kind of slightly out of whack from that perspective. I don't know if that's a technical term, slightly out of whack, but.
Seen it many times.
Yeah,
yes.
exactly.
I mean,
Is
just
is that
nerf
accurate,
the,
or
or
how do
sorry,
you feel?
buff the
Yeah,
density of Nightmare Dungeons
we
though.
had some,
Like they
cases
should be
where
crazy. They should be cracked.
Yeah, among side dungeons, some side dungeons had dramatically more elites than other side dungeons, and so it really felt like if you're thinking about efficiency, it only made sense to farm those.
Right.
But more broadly, I mean, you were talking about Nightmare Dungeons. Nightmare Dungeons have, first off, actually, you know, the significant majority of our players haven't finished the campaign yet. So there are lots of players that are still playing through the campaign.
Right.
But many of the people who are watching this stream, in fact, and our dedicated players play through content much more quickly.
Right.
And have been experiencing this.
And also those players that
situation with the dungeons,
haven't gotten
right?
through the campaign
to
are also
Nightmare
getting
Dungeons.
affected by the nerfs that
Nightmare Dungeons
are hitting their builds,
explicitly
making it
set
feel
up
worse. I'm just
to
saying.
be highly replayable, right? Through the sigil affixes, through the variety of Nightmare Dungeons that are available, to the changes to monsters that occur inside them. And so we want them to be a great place to farm, including if you want to farm dungeons over and over. If you
Right.
want to loop dungeons, Nightmare Dungeons are set up to be good at doing that.
That's
right?
the intention.
Yeah. So what we're going to do there is we're going to increase the amount of XP that you get from Nightmare Dungeons.
Let's go. That's a
And,
good step.
Our goal with this
Magic Find.
is to make Nightmare Dungeons more efficient to do than side dungeons.
Right.
Because they're designed to be more replayable.
And does that take into account, like Nightmare Dungeons have essentially a travel time to get to them?
Right. So this is a great point. So in order to
Okay,
when you
I
think
like
about
this.
efficiency, if you think about XP per hour or XP per minute, and we actually have telemetry.
Port us
on
to the
this, so you
dungeon.
can
Come
see
on. Come on, port us
what
to
it
the
looks like.
dungeon.
You can't just look at the XP that you're getting from the Nightmare Dungeon, because you have to spend some of the time traveling to that Nightmare Dungeon. And in fact, Nightmare Dungeons are a variety of distances away from the nearest waypoint or teleport. So it actually varies depending on which Nightmare Dungeon you're going to. And so that can also have the effect, if you're thinking about the efficiency aspect of it, of XP per hour or loot per hour, of sort of making it hard to justify choosing a Nightmare Dungeon that's far from a teleport point.
Sure.
So the second thing that we're going to do here is we're going to modify the way that sigils work so that they teleport you to Nightmare Dungeon.
There it is.
So they teleport.
There it
or they
is.
create a place to a waypoint to the dungeon.
They will create a waypoint that allows you to teleport. But yes,
Let's
you'll
go.
be able to teleport to. That's
There
an
it
important
is.
distinction.
Right.
But the effect is that you'll be able to.
Okay, that's
teleport
good.
to
That's
your
good.
Nightmare Dungeon,
That's one
and
thing
you'll
on my
be able
list.
to loop from the end of a
Checked
Nightmare
off.
Dungeon
Well done.
into your next Nightmare Dungeon.
Did one thing
If you
good so
want,
far, I believe.
loop them
Right.
again. You may have to leave the Nightmare Dungeon using an interface, but you'll be able to go from Nightmare Dungeon.
Now
to
we
Nightmare
need
Dungeon without
magic
traveling between
find.
them.
Right.
And that allows us to have the XP, calculate the XP buff to make sure that those are the most efficient to do, because we're removing the travel time aspect.
XP has to be good enough.
So-
Loot has
so
to be good
we're-
enough.
We're
Come on.
improving the rewards from Nightmare Dungeons to make them more what the intention was. That's the place you farm.
Yeah.
We're removing the need to have a travel time, because a waypoint will appear and you and your party can go there, so it shortens it.
Right.
Like the waypoint one in particular sounds like a reasonably large change. So from a player perspective, what should expectations be about, hey, that sounds awesome, or at least for me, I'm responding, that sounds awesome. I don't know if I agree yet, but I think that sounds awesome. So what kind of timing, what range of timing are you thinking?
It is. It is. Tiffany was just talking about like the kinds of things that we can do very quickly and easily.
This isn't supposed to be one of
It's
them.
a little, but this is something that's really important to many of our most dedicated players. And so we're working very hard on this right now, actually, and yesterday as well.
Want to hear loot though?
to
Come
get
on.
in
Come on.
Before season 1 launches.
Oh,
Hit me with the hat trick here.
Yeah.
Give me the loot. Give me the
So
loot.
I know.
Give me the loot.
Tiffany and the live ops team I know have been working really tough on are working a lot to make sure that we can get specific updates before season 1 and scheduling those out and everything. So yeah, the Nightmare Dungeon changes that Joe was just talking about. The goal is to have that out before season 1, so players can actually experience it.
Okay.
And use sigils to really teleport to Nightmare Dungeons and use that as a way of kind of incentivizing. And with Nightmare Dungeons XP being buffed, and it should be a new the way that players end up needing to want to kind of grind or farm specific things, they have the Nightmare Dungeon options.
So, and then for people who are maybe not following along all the time, right now season 1, we're saying mid to late July.
Mid to late July.
So we're saying
Okay,
that this
mid to
change
late
could happen
July.
anytime between, in the next whatever,
Okay.
4 weeks or whatever.
Cool. We
So
got
that's
about a
what
month.
we're focused on.
A month
But
to a
again,
month
I think that
and a half-ish.
The waypoint teleportation, we have to get that right.
Before
That's-
season
there's
1.
a lot
Yeah.
that goes on there. So there's a bunch of QA we have to do to make sure we don't mess with parties and everything else, right? So we want to go as quickly as possible, but we also have to go as safely as possible. The last thing we want to do is rush something. So I use the phrase, don't shake the jello, which is a notion of like your jello mold is trying to set, and if you keep poking it, it won't ever stabilize, it won't ever set. And that's kind of the thing we worry about here, is that with all that, what are we at, hotfix 9 we've put out so far?
We're actually at 11.
We are at
11?
11.
11. Oh no.
And
What are the
you
two
with all
recent
sort of
ones
client
then?
patches, like we're constantly sort
Because
of
I know
poking
9 was the one that
If you do
hit
that
the
without
dungeons
proper
most recently.
QA and proper testing to make sure you're not shaking something out of alignment, because I think we've had that where we've maybe rushed a patch and then that caused something else to slightly not go the way we want. So that's something we want to be as responsive as possible, but we also want to be as safe as possible and make sure we're not causing other issues.
Yeah, I mean,
Shout out to Hotfix 11 for fixing some of the things that we may have done
we may
ourselves.
have broken the
Yeah.
previous one.
the teleport should take you to the dungeon and not under the world or
Yes.
in front of Lilith.
Oh my.
Major shout out to our QA team because we have put out, I think as you just said, 11 hotfixes and I want to say 8 or 9 client patches. So definite kudos to them.
Yes.
Speaking of season 1,
Yeah.
I am looking forward to it. I'm a Necro player as well, I believe Rod is, so definitely looking through that chonky patch to make sure that my class gets buffed, as Joe said. But I've been collecting
Now,
renown.
you just promised. Do you realize what you just did?
Yes.
That
This is
you
why I
just
need to
promised
you know,
necro buffs
well,
to
now
people.
Joe has to do it
I
because
know.
I said
Is that
it.
how it works?
Yes, it is how it
Oh,
works.
okay, great.
I didn't tell him that, but now he knows. I'm looking forward to season 1. I am curious because I think a lot of the community is curious. Will I have to
renown stuff.
recollect all those altars of Lilith? Do I get to carry over those primary stat bonuses that I'm earning? What about my map? Don't really want to have to rediscover it. So, Rod, what's season 1 going to look like for me when I roll a rogue?
When you roll a rogue, well, I mean, one of the cool things you and I both experienced a lot with our necro play is the blighted corpse problem, right?
Yes.
Which is the, I think
I
Josh
don't know if
calls
that's
them.
one of the cool things.
Well, no, it is a cool thing. I think Josh calls them corpse farts, but like he's like, I'm trying to get
All
through
right.
this with corpse farts. It's not my favorite term, but anyway, but we know that the opaqueness of that effect is sometimes there can be an explosion waiting for you underneath there, and you can die. because
It
you
is a
didn't see it.
bug, yes.
On death
that
effects?
is one of the
Why?
things
See,
we
So
are
many on death
fixing.
effects though.
Just
Really
judoed
though.
that
Come on.
Yes,
question
you
back
totally
to
did.
it.
On
And
death
I
effects
actually
are
care
not
about
fun.
this because
They're
I
just
use
bad.
Blighted Corpse on my Necro. That is included in one of our upcoming patches. It is a bug. I know there was some discussion of like, is this intentional? It's not intentional. We will be fixing it and making it a little bit easier in general to be able to see which of the dangerous effects on the ground, making sure that's always readable to the player. So making sure our sort order is correct. If there's a Fire Enchanted, which is, it's the affix that always gets me, that I can definitely see it, because right now with all the corpse farts on the ground,
See?
Oh my goodness.
now
No.
that is canon, I can, it's very difficult for me to see a lot of the affixes or some of the enemy or PvP.
At least it's better than
firearm
people
effects.
saying
So
hand
looking
casting.
forward to those changes. But yes,
Hand
going
casting
back
was
to
yikes.
season one.
Renown. Yeah, I think the big thing that we're seeing, one of the big questions I think, especially new players, if you've played Diablo 3 before, you're familiar with the seasonal kind of reset. That idea of like, oh, it's a new season. There may be new balances, especially like in Diablo 3, they changed how sets work and all these sorts of things. There's an interesting.
If they say
I wanna go back
what
and
everybody
experience
wants
what
here,
new
then
changes are in the season.
this is
or
gonna
new
be huge.
mechanics. And that's still true in Diablo 4. That idea that there's that sense of progression and going back and trying something new.
I will. I
experiencing the
am
new
somebody who will
mechanics in
just
the
grind.
world,
So
from a new place where
not
otherwise
the
it becomes this
craziest
huge sort of
thing to
power creep.
affect me, but yeah.
But what,
I mean,
obviously,
I'll
what
enjoy
the
it,
feedback is people
but
now are starting to complete the campaign.
I'm
and
slightly
starting to look
indifferent.
forward to season 1 coming mid to late July. They're wondering, like, wait, when we talk about resets, how do I think about the renown system in particular? And so one of the things, what will happen is that I think we started off in one place and we're kind of ending up in another place, which is kind of interesting. Is we started off. Going,
I feel like people
hey,
are just
we
like,
want as
just
much
say it.
of that feeling of progression as possible. So rediscovering things isn't that bad because you're like, oh, I get to do this really cool. But I think we're starting to feel with alt characters that notion of, oh, the fog of war between characters doesn't feel great. And like the Lilith altars doesn't necessarily feel great. And so that's something we're going to do. And we'll be continuing to evaluate what should and shouldn't be reset as part of that.
Ooh, okay, so they're not resetting everything. I think
one character on your account, you can skip campaign from every character from there on through every season and
Okay.
basically.
Oh, so you could just.
expansions, but I believe expansions.
Okay, so you don't have to
not
redo the campaign. Okay.
Lock stuff in too early. But that notion that you only have to complete, that's kind of the thinking we have. So right now for Renee,
So I
what
wanted
we're
to do
talking about is
campaign next
as we
season.
go
I can
into
just
season
level.
1, when the amount of
I will
fog of
say,
war that
though,
was lifted on your map, the amount of them
That was
you've
rippy AF.
exposed,
in
going into the
hardcore.
season in the Eternal Realm will be what you see in the season.
If things
so you
are
don't have to
reset.
go and reveal the map again. And the only capital city waypoints I think will be active, much like it is now. So, but you'll see them; they'll just be gray. So, because there's so much renown you get for claiming one, we still want you to go claim that waypoint.
Okay, so
And then there's
okay,
also
so
the
that
Altars
pretty
of
much.
Lilith, which is basically those will stay as well. You don't have to rediscover them every season. And that's always been true. The notion around the benefits you get from a
Will you
Altar of
keep the
Lilith, like
renown,
+2
though?
intelligence or +2 dex, those stay with you forever, much like the renown system of the the extra potion charge or the extra obol capacity. Those stay with you too. You don't have to go get those skill points, go get those potion charges. Those go with you. And what's kind of cool is that what we're talking about is we'll preload you that renown. So so if I could get, I'll make up a number, this is totally made up, 1,000 renown through Fog of War clearance, when I start up season 1, my map will be clear like it is in the Eternal Realm, and I'll already have 1,000 renown in my...
Right, your renown.
So is that Lilith
screen
altars too?
will still show, fog. This many areas of the map.
That
to be
kind of
discovered.
sounds.
It
If
will
it's
just
the
give you
altars
credit for
and
ones that you've
the
already discovered, and that
like
will translate
locations,
into starting the season.
then
if you
waypoints
have
aren't bad.
Playing previously on a character with some amount of renown.
Right.
Yeah.
Got it. And our intention, so those are the base of the two major, you get credit for. Like we're going to...
Altars and fog.
Altars and fog. And so side quests, those are something that still reset. But we're looking into the future, maybe that's something else we could potentially...
Potentially. I mean, it's something that I think we'll continue to evaluate. Like, some things are fun to do every season, and some things are, after you do them a few times, you feel like, why do I have to do this again? And I mean, I think that's something that it's pretty clear on exploring the map and the Altars of Lilith.
Yeah.
I think it's less clear on some of those other things.
I know as one personal preference. I mean, when I skip campaign on a new character, I kind of use the side quest to kind of create my own campaign playthrough. Like it gives me a little more direction. So I actually, again, one person.
I guess
actually like being able to play through the side stories again.
Yeah. And so, just to re-clarify on the Altars of Lilith, obviously.
I just wonder
players
how much that is
and how it works
XP-wise.
right now is if you collect an Altar of Lilith, you get the stat bonuses or whatever bonuses that you have, and those carry over. But now with the additional changes, it will be showcased. The ones that you've actually visited already will now showcase on your map already. So it ends up at least covering off of that, of course. And then, as Rod mentioned, the Fog of War items will be kind of carried over, or not carried over, but removed from as you kind of create new characters. And in terms of timing, I guess for some of these, when were we kind of looking for?
That's season 1, right? So it would be...
Yeah, we're looking to get that for season 1. An interesting point here is that that change will also affect alts after it goes in.
Oh, nice. Perfect. Yeah.
So alts after season 1 will have the same benefit.
Yeah.
Nice. Good. Very cool. Well, I know I'm
Okay, some
slowly
decent
getting
quality of
through
life
this
there.
here.
But no, people
Well,
definitely
you
want more.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you want some
But that's
benefit,
not
you want
that
some
bad.
support.
Like, not having to re-get the renown for
I
the
think one of
stuff
the
that
things
is
especially in
obviously
Campaign 2 is,
easy.
in the dungeons.
That is pretty nice.
When you're going through and clearing dungeons, probably at least the bottom row of my inventory tends to be the gems I've collected along the way, and I know that creates some tension.
Gem tab?
In terms of when to go
Gem-
back or
gem
and
storage?
those sorts of things. So I know the quick answer is always I want a gem tab, or how do I put a different place?
Oh my
to put
goodness.
Those? But it sounds like we're doing something. We're thinking about it differently.
Yeah, we're looking at inventory tension, essentially, things that fill up your. It's the
Inventory tension.
design. Yeah,
Nice.
it's a design term. Anyway,
That's a
it's
fun name for it.
basically stuff that clutters up your inventory.
Sure.
And important, awesome stuff that we built and has all kinds of interesting gameplay, but has the effect of taking up lots of space.
Sure.
It's not, yeah. Like gems.
Perfect segue.
I got there.
We got there. For example, random idea. Gems.
Like gems. This is why it's a campfire chat. We're establishing the baseline expectations.
Oh, no,
for
okay.
campfire chat.
Yeah,
I think we should just go low.
Yeah, we can
While
only
we're
go
not
so
answering a
low.
question, and I still haven't got these cookies open, so I'm making noise
so-
while you're thinking.
When we think about gems,
Still didn't get it.
there are many colors of gems, there are many qualities of gems, and this can have the effect of taking up lots of inventory space. So what we're looking to do, and this is a longer, we've talked about fixes that have different time horizons. This is a longer term one.
Okay, that's
or
kinda
can
rude.
we get it in around season 2?
Ooh. Okay,
The
that's
idea is to
Chad is yikesing right now. I'm yikesing at
change
that
the
one.
way
Oof.
you acquire
Oof.
gems so that they are show up in your materials or currency tab rather than in inventory.
Oh, like when you collect veiled crystals. So rather than it
Right.
even being a thing that you collect in an inventory, it's now just part of your materials.
Right, and then the way that
Okay,
works
that'll be-
is you
that'll
go
be good.
to the
Wish it was sooner,
you go to
but
craft your gem
that'd be good.
in the same way that you do today, and you just use a certain amount of that material. So it's similar to the amount of equivalent like actual gem inventory slots that you're using now,
Right.
but as materials, and you can use that to craft the gem that goes.
Will
with
it-
it.
will it be
Kind of a
just
win-win
like-
because it's saving you inventory space, but it's also saving you stash space. Because right now, I'm just like filling up my stash with gems.
Yeah.
But now, if it's just materials I'm carrying, but like something I've been there's been discussion around while we're on materials is that there's this notion of, oh, I didn't understand there was caps. Like I am not as hardcore to have 10,000 veiled crystals, but I know some people out there are, and they're realizing like, oh, you can only carry 10,000, and there isn't a way to put veiled crystals into the stash or whatever to do with it. Like,
I mean, if you
there-
hit 10,000,
there's
that's
a
not
thinking
that
around
big of a deal.
caps,
I'm
but
just
sometimes
saying.
It's like, oh, we were trying to force you to go do an action. We like much like the opals thing now. Like, oh, you go roll something because your more opals are falling. But I don't think that it doesn't feel like that's the same for veiled crystal. As an example, veiled crystal. Like, how do you think about caps and materials?
Yeah,
I mean, I don't think that's a
the
problem.
caps, the materials aren't. There's no particular reason to cap the veiled crystals at 10,000. We're just gonna make that bigger.
Yeah.
Oh, they are going to make
Upping
it bigger.
the
Okay, I was going to say, is there any reason to
which,
actually
we've-
raise it?
We've seen
Either?
a lot of players, especially players that are like, level 90 plus as you're going through.
Like, what can
dungeons,
you do with
obviously
that
can
many
naturally
veiled
just pick
crystals?
up
All
a
I'm
lot,
saying.
and you're
I mean,
going to salvage a lot of that as well. So
some-
you're
someone
gonna get to
knows something I
those
don't, I
specific
guess.
caps that are currently in the game. So I know
Right.
a lot of those changes are going to be really beneficial to players who put in a decent amount of hours on those characters, or even if they're already at max level at 100 and they're still farming gear or looking for gear on those characters.
And the time horizon on the cap lifting of the caps?
I think we have that in.
That's actually
That's coming
that's
before
coming
season
before
one,
season
right?
one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that one we will be
Okay.
changing before season
That's
one.
right.
And it'll be incorporated in some and an update,
A future planned
a future
update
planned update.
before season
Because you
one.
love them. You just love rolling those out.
Just like sweating. I know this has actually been an interesting conversation also that I did want to bring up is we've had a lot of people, especially like content creators and others that have kind of been a little confused on how things like resistances actually currently work within the game.
Ooh, okay.
There's a lot of people that are actually prioritizing other benefits on gear or stats right now over resistances because they're a little confused on how it works, or they feel that it may not be working at all.
I certainly do that with gems. Like I certainly would rather use my emerald for thorns than like whatever the reduction, like plus 14% resistance, whatever. Like I know my instincts are to go to the more tangible thing initially, and I guess sometimes it can be subtle that people don't pick up on the one-to-one. Like, hey, I know exactly how this is affecting my play. Like, is that?
Yeah, the resistance case is one where the system has a lot of different inputs, and there are some of those have multiplicative scaling, and we have sort of some things we want to accomplish with that system too. We want to encourage players to get more resistances as they go up higher in world tiers, which is why there's an effect on your resistances as you go up in world tiers.
Oh, that might be clear to some people. Because like that, so basically, as you move up in world tier, your current level of resistances will get sort of
Right.
and so that you have to kind of reacquire that resistance.
Yeah, and what we're seeing right now is that
Okay, I'm gonna let 'em
because
cook.
of the way
Let 'em
all
cook.
of these, there's also an effect where your armor provides physical resistance and also provides half that amount
Half
of
for the-
elemental resistance.
Yep.
And because all of these things are interacting in a complex way, it can be hard for people to figure out exactly how they work.
Right.
But regardless of that, the way that it is working in practice is meaning that resistances are less valuable than we would like them to be.
Sure.
Okay, so
And
so
because
we're
it's a
not wrong.
fairly,
Wait, what?
complex interaction. This is something that's going to take a little bit more time to sort of dial in the right solution for.
Right. But they're still valuable in the short term. It's not like they're like not worth it at all.
Yeah,
Like,
what happens is as you get
mean, they're
up
really
into higher amounts
they're
of
pretty
resistance
yikes.
and higher world tiers, you're seeing the value drop off more than we intend for it. And so that's where we're going to see some changes.
Right. And so
I am
because we need to
curious
go
though.
slow
Next
on
character,
that
I'm
kind
gonna
of
put a lot of
complex
res on it
change,
and see what happens
what are you thinking
at low
from a
levels.
time horizon on that?
That's going to be something that we see around season 2.
Right. I think it's worth also managing expectations. The reason why you hear things like, hey, we found something, or we're hearing something, and we're talking already about season 2, which again, we're talking about quarterly seasons, so that's going to be in the fall. Like, why wouldn't you get into season 1? I don't understand. Well, we're like pretty much finishing up season 1 right now. In order to be able to put it through certification, the way that we do our release candidate testing, like we need to be ahead of the game. And the fact that we're only, let's say it's mid to late July and we're already sort of mid-June, so we're like 4 weeks away. It can take a couple weeks to get through cert and everything else. So you kind of have to be out in front of this stuff. And so that's what I was trying to set in one of the official dev streams and managing expectations. When we find something, we're like, it's not a hot fix worthy thing or something we can't even hot fix because it's not just like changing a variable on a server. It's something that is a complex system that requires real work. It may come a little bit later than you're thinking because of the fact that we have to be so ahead of the game in developing this content for you. So that's why you're hearing stuff like season 2 means season 1 is pretty much done. I mean, it's done from a development perspective, and now it's in the QA and certification phase. So that's why we talk about season 2 as the next sort of window to put stuff out like this.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people are going. I'm seeing chat now going like, why not season 1? It's the perfect explanation for it, because in the end of the day, you have to button something up to get it ready for people to actually play it, and we obviously have to do a lot of testing for it, certification and so forth. So just a reminder for everyone, like, development is a process. It's
An iterative process.
An iterative process for sure.
That's also a good point. When we think about seasons, one of the things that we think is most important is delivering new content.
Right.
Because that is new stuff for everyone. Like, if we want to.
I don't think I like
make
where this
sure
is
that
going
every
with what
season
he's
is
saying.
delivering new content, and then on top of that, bring in important fixes, bring in some quality of life improvements. And so, I know that I've seen some lists, like people have helpfully made like some lists, like here are a bunch of quality of life fixes that we would like, or that would help me, as a player. So I think what you'll see is that over time, as seasons roll out, you're going to see those. Like we've been talking about with season 1 and season 2, you're going to continue to see those things. You're not going to see a season that's like, sorry, we didn't make any content, but here's a bunch of fixes.
Yeah, and
because we think the content is really important.
Yeah, that's the big thing. Is like Diablo 4 just launched. And we have a lot of stuff planned for the game.
Yeah, and I've had some comments on Twitter where people are like, well, D3 has this thing and D4 doesn't have this thing. And D3 has been out there for 10 years, iterating and improving, and like D4 has been out there for 10 days. And so, like, that doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, it is a skeleton that it was pretty solid skeleton.
Evolution of these things aren't going to.
Well, I'm waiting for season 1.
We're going to keep.
Season 1's going to be really telling.
As fast as we can, and as safely as we can through seasons and hotfixes and patches and expansions. So, just because there's something not there today doesn't mean there's no intention to put it there in the future.
I mean, I would assume they're going to work on things and fix it.
Risk for all of the changes.
And them saying what's coming season 2, definitely really good.
Is it something that needs to be fixed and
But
addressed in the live environment right now? Is it something that would be better to wait until our next planned release vehicle, whether that's season
if they're
1 or
not
season
fixing
2, right,
enough,
production terms there.
then that's a problem.
And we want to just, like Joe was saying, it's super important that we deliver quality seasons with tons of great content to our players. So it's also super important that we don't rush something out and break the game where it becomes not playable, not viable, or not so fun anymore. So definitely taking all the feedback. We have a very, very long list of things that we want to get to, and like Rod was saying, I worked on D3 for many years, and we improved it over time. And I'm actually looking forward to the point where we can start putting in a lot of those improvements that people are asking for to get it to a super, super polished game that makes everybody happy. It's pretty close.
Agreed. I know one thing that has been kind of a hot topic within the community because a lot of players
Here
are
we
playing
go.
hardcore.
We're getting spicy.
And we have seen some, whether it could be a disconnect or a player might be dying, randomly on their own accord, or
Come on.
maybe they
Come on,
have
get to the right thing.
a service issue or something from their side. I know that there's like
Disconnect
a lot of questions
faster.
related to disconnection, death protection, and so forth.
On, I believe.
I know it's a thing that we've been looking at. And we've been looking at everyone's clips, even the painful ones where we're like, oh no, that's awful and so forth. But
Yeah, the literal world
I
first
know
hardcore
we've been
player
looking
died
at
to a
potentially doing
DC.
some work on that from that end.
Yeah, so there are a few cases here. There are, we've seen some
World
cases
first
where
100 dead.
a hardcore hero died during teleport, which is a bug. We've seen potentially some bugs with situations where you should be immune, but you might have died. We're investigating both of those cases, and once we have identified the root cause, we'll tackle fixes for that. You also mentioned cases where the player disconnects, right?
Mm-hmm.
These can be some of the most frustrating situations for a hardcore player because in many cases it is completely outside of your control. It could be an issue with anywhere between you and the server, right?
Yeah.
So those can be especially frustrating. And
Like PoE, if
we
you
have
hard disconnect,
already,
you got 6
a
seconds.
mechanism in the game that allows players to
And then you got a
escape
logout
from
macro.
boss fights that has very strict controls on it in terms of being a consumable item that's a fairly rare drop, which is called the Scroll of Escape. This is a hardcore only item. It's a consumable scroll. You can use it at any time and teleport to safety. You can bind it to your mouse wheel. It's important to bind it to the...
It's very important to bind it. I do recommend binding it.
Binding it, yes.
So that you don't run into an issue where you might potentially use like an emote
Instead of your. I mean,
the
you go out with style.
Emote at the boss, dude.
Going out emoting while you're being killed.
So we have this mechanism already to allow players to try out something that's extremely difficult in hardcore, and that allows us to have things in hardcore that are very challenging.
Right.
Because without something like this, as a hardcore hero who's invested hundreds of hours, why would I go and do something where I might die?
Yeah.
There's certainly lots of risk there, and it's very exciting.
Right.
Okay, so if the scroll is a
I could just
logout
get a little
macro,
stronger first.
why not just have a logout macro
So
as
we
a
think that
thing
the scroll
when
allows
you
for even more exciting
when you
moments.
DC?
Scroll of nope. You're like, nope.
And this is the place where, because it has these controls in terms of...
Because you don't have to make a logout macro because that exists.
Drop,
Right.
So
this is the place where we want to add...
why not put a DC
disconnect
safety net?
protection. So basically, the way that this will work is...
Okay, they're
if
adding something.
you're-
Okay, they are.
If you get
Okay.
disconnected, and this is essentially for any reason. And,
Oh, so
and
like
I
even
want
if you're like your cat pulls the Wi-Fi router out of the
yes.
wall.
Now I want to clarify that
Because a dog would never do
it's
this.
not
That's true. Only cats.
the disconnect
Only
case
cats.
is
Law.
is a very complex situation in terms of determining what's happening.
Sure.
So this is not perfect situation.
Okay.
Doesn't work 100% of the
guarantee-
time. I mean,
not
PoE's doesn't work
100%.
100% either,
But
so
what
fair
should
enough.
happen is that when we detect that you've disconnect, if you have one of these scrolls of escape in your inventory, it will trigger, even though you weren't there to trigger it. It will consume the scroll, so you can't just do this as much as you want.
Right.
And it will teleport you to safety.
Right.
So when you log back in after the lightning has subsided, you should be in town.
Should be
Just
a
have scrolls.
Okay.
Because they are limited.
You gotta have
like,
scrolls.
obviously.
Okay, I mean, hey,
You have
that's
to stop
that's
the abuse, right? You don't
that
stop
sounds
like
good.
using disconnects
That
as
sounds
ways
really
of doing
good.
things. It's the same thing I think when we were talking about the sigil change is that one of the concerns, if we didn't put the right rules around it, is that if a sigil automatically teleported me somewhere, I could use that to escape hard content, you know. And so that we always have to. That's part of it. It's not everything is intuitively like, oh, I instantly get it, go do that. You have to go like, wait, there's a bunch of edge cases and things that this can be abused, and we have to manage that too. So. Okay, that sounds good. So I'm Mr. What's the time window on that, Joe?
Yeah,
That's my
there we
goal
go.
now on this.
Yeah.
Campfire chat is Rod. Like, when are you getting that done?
That's a selfish
That is
question.
also a season 2 time frame.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Some
No.
of the bugs that I mentioned earlier in terms of cases where immunity, there could be a problem with immunity, or a teleport, a death during loading screen or something. Those are things that we're investigating right now.
It could be hotfixed, but
it could be sooner than that.
Yeah, those could be
Okay.
sooner.
Okay.
and
The
then,
teleport
the-
death or like leaving a
flow of escape
dungeon
is
and then you
connection within dependencies.
Quinn died to the. I'm
Cool.
leaving a dungeon. I'm dead.
All right, I know I got a few more. Sorry, I know I want to make sure we hit on all these topics. This is obviously really important for the community, and I know that they want to hear about them and so forth. But
Why are my caches higher level than me?
yes, that is a very popular one. Why are my caches higher level than me? I can't open my
can't even
cache.
open the
I
cache.
killed
I
the
wanna know
world
what's in the
boss,
cache.
but I can't open the cache.
What's in the cache, Joe?
This is a bug. So.
Oh, it is a bug. Okay.
Before season 1, in an upcoming
A
fix.
planned patch.
Yes, that's right.
In the plan patch?
Plan patch.
You will be able to
in
open
the 13 pager? Is that what
in a planned patch. you will be able to open caches from world bosses. Now, the gear that's in those caches may still be higher level,
At least
but
you can
there's
sell it. Or
and there's a variety of things you can salvage.
Right.
Some of the stuff in the caches isn't gear. You'll be able to use that immediately.
But at least you can open it and see what's inside.
Yeah.
And it gives you something to work toward. You're like, oh, this thing that's amazing is 3 levels higher than me. I'm going to go get up to that level and use that gear, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
The thing is, you don't need to be the.
I know.
Oh, wait, pointing that out, that's one of my biggest
scaling
problems.
is a huge topic.
Come on.
I'm just diving
Oh, okay,
right
we're
in.
going
Maybe too
scaling.
huge? Is that
I
what
want the
you're
item
going
level
with?
thing.
Well,
I want to have
scaling is a
loot
big
for
topic.
my
I
alts,
think,
please.
Players have talked a lot about like, hey, the world scaling with
Right.
you and
Or maybe trade with
the
friends,
sense
I'm
of
just saying.
power that you have. I think one thing that we actually
think trading's
talked
very
about
important in
earlier,
these games.
I think addresses some of the
No
the
auction house, though. I don't
scaling
have to have
questions
that.
we have,
Just
which
the
was,
ability to
like,
trade
nightmare
good stuff.
dungeons Are that way of also
With the
feeling
community.
more powerful as you're kind of progressing through them, because you can obviously go into higher level nightmare dungeons, and you'll be able to slowly but surely, get your
Impossible.
way through higher and
Right,
higher
Ruben.
level versions of that. The other thing, though, I think, and I've seen this a lot personally myself, where people have been going like, hey, I might be like a level 25 druid, but level 18 gear is dropping. And
Oh, right.
there's a lot of like attachment to item level, or to the actual level requirement.
Focus on the wrong number?
Yeah,
Yep.
as opposed to the item power, and I think it's a topic I wanted to bring up just because item power is actually really the number that people should be really focusing on, as opposed to specifically item level, because there are points where you will actually potentially find a higher item level requirement with a lower item power itself, and that's one thing I
mean,
think
it's literally
that,
based on the level you are when
will
you
help
drop it,
with
that-
people when they're
what?
focusing on trying to become more powerful, is really going for item power, focusing on that specific number in itself, because I know a lot of people have been discussing it online and everything.
And that's what I guess when you upgrade at the vendor, like the item power is what's getting upgraded. Right?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of nice sometimes that you can get a slightly higher item power on a slightly lower level item, because it gives that lower level character a bit of a bump and those sorts of things.
Yeah, the item.
But the problem is it's not
the
getting
required level
consistent
from
high
item
item power.
does loosely correlate with the power of the item in most cases, but there are many situations where that's not
I mean, that's just
accurate.
level 70,
And so
right?
it's better to
Is
look,
when it-
as Adam was saying, at
Yeah.
When you can get the highest item power?
I mean, Adam brought up Druid, so
Pretty much when you get
one of the
into
things I know I
ancestrals.
hear quite a bit about is there's
So,
a thing where you get into uniques and discussions that
But I mean, they really didn't say anything there.
For druids and
They're just
so
what?
what's the issue there?
Yeah, there are a couple bugs where certain barb uniques can drop for druids that we're fixing, and that's going to come in before. I see where you're going here.
I know. You know what I was going to say. So when's that happening, Joe?
It's going to come in before season 1.
Okay.
In a planned patch.
So within the next 4 weeks.
But when
Ish.
I'm playing a class, Joe, can I expect to occasionally see uniques or legendaries drop for other classes?
Yeah, you will. That's a really good point. It's these changes are not. You will never ever.
It doesn't
see
matter,
anything for another
but
class.
because you
Right.
can't
It's
use
that
it
there are
on
some
another one of your
specific
characters
barb,
until you get to the same level you are.
uniques that were meant to drop only for barb, but due to a bug are also dropping for druid, and we're correcting those.
Got it. Okay. Awesome.
And I know we just mentioned this, but in a future update, don't hate me, Ted. A future hotfix is what we'll say for right now. A future hotfix is when we plan on.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. That's right.
Social features, looking for group, looking like type of features. has
Come
been
on, go back to the items.
Topic.
You did not
For
address
people
the
who may not be
big
in,
problem with
a
it. Holy
clan
balls,
or
dude.
something like
That is one of the
choose
one
not to actually
things
join
I
a clan,
wanted.
or maybe some of the
Ugh.
your friends or normal friends.
0
who
out of 10
usually logged
podcasts.
off at the same time, trying to find other people to maybe like join
No,
with you
dude.
during dungeons and stuff like that can be a little bit of a challenge. We've been hearing a lot of feedback on that. I know that the team obviously is looking into future social features for the game itself. We just need more iteration time, more time to actually think about how we want that to actually be available, how accessible it should be, and so forth for players to be able to jump into some dungeons with maybe randos or something like that if they want to, if they're looking for it. I know it's a topic that a lot of people have been talking about, but we are looking into it in terms of items.
I think crossplay adds complexity too. Like that's
Yes.
why, again, it's one of those things where you want to make the right choices and take the time to do it right. And it did feel like as a social features, it felt like it's one of those great places to evolve and iterate into. So I think that's a large bucket of features that I could see as we continue to improve quality of life over all the seasons. I could see like social features are just going to get better and better and better over time.
Yep. And the other big thing, and I know that some PC players have experienced, have been a little bit of some like performance and like stability items. It's a team that we have like this graphics engineering team that has been like hardcore, like slamming into the problem itself and trying to figure out exactly all the different cases and all the different scenarios. We actually do have some fixes and some items that we're addressing here and some upcoming client patches that will be hitting players. So it should help out with a lot of those specific scenarios or those instances that players are actually running into. And again, if you guys actually have any of those issues on your end, feel free to post those in our forums. We scour those, all throughout the day. It's customer service, it's QA, it's community, and we're actually providing all this information over to those teams. Giving as much information as possible is huge, as opposed to like, hey, my computer's not performing very well while I'm playing Diablo 4. If you can give us, extra information, computer specs, etc., where it may have occurred, and details and so forth,
And
it
the
helps us
DX
a lot.
diag on the forums is really helpful.
Yes.
Because a lot of times, sometimes there's expectations around how much memory do I actually need, how much VRAM do I actually need, and sometimes like actually because of the way we do seamless server transitions, sometimes if there's if we're doing some maintenance or there's something going on, you could see what you call rubber banding could actually be just a slight delay in the server transition and not actually be related to the game's performance. It may actually just be.
I mean, yeah,
networking
that's
handoff
mostly
between
what it is
servers.
when
So
a lot of people are
there's just-
complaining,
there is no one blanket.
especially when
I
you're
think,
on a mount
there's a lot of
going super fast.
we run on very low end, which like being able to go all the way down to Gen 8 to going to very high, and each one of them have their own different sets of requirements, and we know that by setting your settings correctly can help you a lot too, like playing with like what is this texture level, does it help or hurt, those kinds of things. But that 13-page document that Adam has in his hand does contain a lot of performance improvements as well. So, but we feel really good about where we are, but we do know that there are some issues with specific cases, and the more information we get about them, the more likely we are to be able to address them.
Yep,
So.
most definitely. I know, so yeah, there's a ton of different bug fixes and so forth that are still coming down the line, and we plan on addressing all of those. Again, continue using our forums to actually give us that info. I know we do want to take some questions from chat and so forth from Twitch chat. I will do my best to actually announce names. I will announce the names so people know that they can go back into chat and see the names and not go like, oh my gosh,
You made up those
you
names.
made up these names
They're
and
real
so
names.
forth. And I will note that was not our
Okay,
interview.
I need to ask
So-
them. I need to ask them about the item level
We
requirement.
did not come up with that question.
Pretty good.
But yeah, I do want to take some questions.
I gotta
from chat.
spam
So,
them.
Joe, you
as we're kind of like,
I will.
I had one. I was actually kind of disappointed.
Well, you know, you
participate
have high
if I can.
expectations.
No,
I
he eats
wasn't a
Outback.
fan.
So you're saying you wouldn't want another one?
Outback is so good. Tiff and I have this thing about Outback Steakhouse. It's fantastic. I know, I'm okay.
He needs to read the questions.
Yes,
I like a
do
bloomin'
read the
onion.
questions.
You like a bloomin' onion.
I do plan on going through at least some of the questions and continue asking questions as they're coming in. We actually have the community team is actually going through. Huge shout out to the community team. They're in the chat and they're actually going through and polling questions so that I can see them because chat is moving very fast. Let's see. In terms of, let's see.
You didn't start with the
Okay,
name.
here we go.
Oh yeah, I need to start with the name. I'm sorry. This is a party play question, and it's from, oh gosh, I have to pronounce the names. Necrologics. It says.
That's not so hard. Necrologics.
Well, I'm hoping it sounds.
Why are you
like
like
that.
sounding it out like a 4-year-old? The necrologics. Why is that so hard?
I mean, it's like logics or something. Can we teleport to people without going to town first? Is that can be an option in the future?
So we're carefully looking at the teleporting. We want it to be easy to meet up with friends. The waypoint in town is our normal way to move to places.
I don't know that everybody knows this, by the way, because I've had to explain it to people. That it's actually, once you know what it is, like I get if you know it, you're saying like, can I optimize it? But if you don't know about it, like it's really cool that when you join your friend's game, I'm giving Joe time to eat his s'mores. When you join your friend's game, you might be in a separate place of the map than they are. If you go to the capital city or any of the capital cities, they will have a
Okay, let's
portal
see.
to
to them waiting to the side. So you were like, oh, I want to join your game. Oh,
They
where
changed
are
the
you?
item
Oh, I'm
level
somewhere over here.
requirements
Just
coming.
hit
What's
down
the
in your
point of?
D-pad, then you're next to a portal that has their name on it. You click on it, and now, or press A, and then you're with them. And so it's been great at playing with parties where you just go like, hey, just press down your D-pad, jump in the portal, and you're with us. And so I get that might not, it's not like a direct, but it's like it's a layover. It's a you have one stop on your way to where you're going. Anyway, so I interrupted your answer to give you time to eat your cookie, but are you thinking about optimizing so you can do more direct teleport?
It's something we'll keep an eye on.
Okay.
We aren't planning to change that right now, but it's this, as Tiffany was saying earlier, this is a game where we
What?
are continuing to support it and provide things for years to come.
Sure.
And that will
we
mean
go.
that the game evolves over that time as well.
Yep.
Oh my gosh!
We
I
have
gotta be a
question
follower for
Greg's
10 minutes.
Place. See, that's an easy
Fuck.
one. Yeah, there's an underscore after Greg's though.
You don't have to
but,
pronounce
yeah,
it.
I don't
Silent.
want to go like place.
Underscore.
Are you guys planning to buff any kind of resource generation?
Rip.
Be it from passive or gear?
So we have a variety of buffs coming in a future patch to many things across many
lit up the
classes.
internet now. Thanks for that. I'm just saying you alluded to buffs, but we're not being specific. So now it's going to be a lot of
I mean,
speculation, which is
That's
great.
true. It's in the top secret document
Yes.
that Adam has.
A lot of this.
Okay.
Draven, are you following them? Anybody? Is anybody following them?
Bills including
I will link you my
build
exact
streams, that have
thing that
issues
I've
with
typed.
resource generation should keep an eye out for things that address that. I want to be careful here though, because resource generation is one of those stats that can very quickly invalidate resource use entirely.
Okay, yeah.
It's very easy for
Resource use is a weird
to end up
mechanic,
in a
though.
situation where you have
Like,
resource
it's
generation
almost
that
never
exceeds
been a
any
case when it's like,
possible resource costs. And while
dude,
that
I
can be
fixed
fun
my
in certain
mana
situations,
consumption.
it can be fun
Yeah,
to
this is the
have
most
character
OP
feel like
thing
you're
ever.
the
It's
game.
like, okay, I got the biggest
If it's
problem out of the
generally
way.
true for
Now I
everyone,
can
the
maybe,
game ends
now I
up
gotta
being less
actually do the
interesting
exciting
because
stuff
you
of
have
my
fewer
build.
interesting choices.
Yeah, there's no trade-offs. Yeah.
There's a lot of people still mentioning mob density and so forth in chat, and I
I
do want
literally
to
am
just
using
at
a
least
build that
clarify
doesn't
them because,
use
like, obviously,
any
you know,
resource.
we've made tweaks and so forth.
Case
We
in
talked
point.
about this earlier, but we made tweaks in terms of like elite mob packs and dungeons and so forth. But we now have established a baseline, and that from that baseline, like we move up. It's not a oh, this like we're gonna continue going down or something like that. So
Joe and I had this conversation recently. Just like it's a combination, and you know, correct me if I get this wrong, but it's not just about like, oh, as we think about Nightmare Dungeons and rewards, it's not always going to be like, oh, this one monster is now worth 1 million experience points. There may be times where you want that to be 5 monsters that are worth 200,000 experience points. Like density is a factor of XP per minute, and as well as the actual value of the individual monsters, and so that'll be something that you all are thinking on.
It's something we're continuing to look at. To clarify, the changes to XP
I have
that
standards,
you
okay.
see before Season 1 will increase the XP that you're getting per monster, per elite monster in Nightmare Dungeons.
Right.
It won't increase the total number of monsters in Nightmare Dungeons. That also can also called the density. But that is something that, as a result of the changes that we had to establish a baseline, we do have the ability to tune in the future.
Right.
yep. Are you guys planning to continue quarterly update style?
Name? Who's asking?
Oh, sorry. Nupu Games. Are you planning to continue to the quarterly update style for upcoming expansions and systems or such? I personally love the updates. That's something to look forward to for every quarter since BlizzCon 2019. We will still be having a lot of developer update live streams. And those, like for instance, our next one will be about Season 1 when you guys do actually.
I kind of. So I'll speak as one person. I kind of like, not necessarily, well, Campfire chat aside, I kind of like the more active stream to a 9-page blog personally. And so having dev streams where we can show cool features and talk about them and
Looking through some of these
interact a
questions,
little
I'm like,
more
really?
versus go read this novel. Like, I like them. I love what we did. I love the transparency because we couldn't necessarily do streams before. But if I had to choose between an 8-page blog and a 45-minute stream, I would choose the stream, but that's just me.
And we still will have blogs.
There's a
around
damage
seasons
question,
and
damaging
announcements, right?
inconsistencies.
So
That's not a bad
still
question,
thing.
but like,
So, expect to see more live
is
streams,
the
of
the
course,
repair
and
button going to
Campfire
be the
chats and
first
everything
button on the
related to it.
blacksmith? Was the first one I saw. I'm like, really?
Will we get the expanded
Really?
option to change our character's appearance within the game? Oh, got it. Guts Claymore asked this question. Thank you, Guts. Will we get more options to change our character's appearance within the game? Don't want to make a new character just to change my character's face, hairstyle, etc.
So there are some options for re-customizing your character through the wardrobe. You can't change everything about the character there. That's something that will continue.
Right? For
to
real
look
though.
at, ways that we can improve over time. You can
I
also
mean, that
expect
last
to
one
see,
definitely felt paid actory.
New options for markings and jewelry and things like that, and obviously armor and things.
Yeah, in the shorter term, there'll probably be more. When you do a character create, there'll be more options. Like as we go through, but
Yeah.
The notion of actually like once you've rolled your character and you're level 60, right now because you can't like change, say, your hairstyle. That's probably a later down the road. That's not that our biggest thing we want to do is get more hairstyles into Character Creator before we're actually is more higher priority than the ability to change your hair after the fact.
Yeah, but we do. I mean, I can go and get a haircut and have a different hairstyle.
There's one about amount of crowd control,
So
but
I understand.
I mean,
understand
some of
the-
us would like to roll a new me if I had to get my hair
I
cut.
understand the question, the desire, the goal.
Oh no, and we all agree with the goal. We're just saying in terms of priorities.
Are we going to add a completed side quest tab?
Who's
Who
asking?
is asking?
Oh, sorry. I'm so bad at this. It's because
At least we all agree on something.
Well, it's like in a different font color, and you just like immediately move off from it. And it's a really hard name. Burn 1 N9 M4N. There we go. I'm just gonna read it out like that because I'm not gonna butcher the name.
You put the forethought to actually look at those leet spellings in case it actually says something you shouldn't say out loud. Have you thought about?
Well, if I just say it by number or whatever, as opposed to saying
safe.
that, then I'm okay. Are you gonna add
Wow, there's
completed
some-
side quest tab to the journal?
Some of the questions
we
are
want
kind of
to
funny.
improve the things that the journal, or that not necessarily the journal specifically, but that
Ooh, I like
can
this
be
one.
tracked.
Scaling limit 70 to
through
80-ish,
the UI over
not
time
95.
to allow,
That person. Oh, that's literally
you know,
Zizarin.
situations
Oh my
where
goodness.
maybe you see something,
Oh,
you wanna
dude,
go
let's
check
go.
out for
Zizarin right there, dude.
over time.
Oh my
That's,
goodness.
Future plans.
I mean, the thing too. I think part of what's driving that. Which
Okay,
I totally get that
I got-
makes total sense with the rest
I got
of it,
2 minutes.
but,
I got 2 minutes, and then I
you
can ask a
don't need to
question.
do all side
You're gonna
quests
end
to
right
keep
when I
you
get
renowned
done.
for that area. Like you can do
That's
it through
also
other
true,
things,
yeah.
right? So, though there's a completionist notion of, because we have some surprise side quests that you can't track. So the notion of, oh, I killed a mob, it dropped a thing,
Right.
and there's no way to know that on the map. And right now, there's no way to say, oh, I'm missing that sword falling one, and people could go like, oh, go kill that wolf that drops the sword or whatever. So but if your desire for being a completionist around side quests is for renown, you can actually complete renown without doing all the side quests.
And then this is kind of a similar question, and I think this kind of falls across like quality of life. This is from Java Jinx. Are there planned quality of life improvements like search functions in the stash or for specific dungeons? I will tell you, like, again, this is another, like, these are features that will obviously.
But yeah, that was funny. I saw that. I was like, that person knows. And of course it's Ziz, dude. That's hilarious.
Lots of quality of life items will end up kind of appearing. We'll be evaluating them all as they kind of come in. I'm going to take one last question, which is.
And who's it from?
Who's it from? And this one I think is just a clarification from people. This is from Nexian. It says, can you just re-clear something you said earlier so we can keep all skill points, potion charges, max obels, and paragon points from renown for seasons?
Right. That's an important thing to clarify. So, the renown, so things like paragon points at the end of the renown bar, you will start with some renown. You're not going to get those paragon points that require finishing the renown bar until you fill the renown bar.
Okay, well, so it's my fault because I misunderstood. So it wasn't that they didn't understand. I misexplained it. So
Yeah, I thought I heard that, and then when the
Eternal
second
Realm,
person
if
explained.
Right.
On one character I complete the full renown bar, so I get my obels and I get my paragon points. If I roll an alt,
You don't have to. You don't have to
I
grind
have
the
skill
horrible
points, I have the
stuff.
potion charge, have
I
the
mean, you just
obels,
got to
I
do
have
side
the
quests
right
and
now,
dungeons.
being that
You
are
probably could
shared
just do
between my
dungeons.
characters on my account.
Some elements of the paragon system are shared between.
They did
characters.
like a
Things
halfway.
like the
I can do the math right now.
Altars of Lilith also give you stat points.
Right, but I'm just saying that's how it works today in the Eternal Realm in terms of going between one character to another.
You got to find the
The
waypoints.
renown
You got to do
unlocks
the
on bottom
strongholds.
level
You got to do the
are
side quests.
account-wide, yes?
Strongholds are easy though, right?
In
That's
seasons,
300.
You will, the things that are at the end of the renown bar. You will
But
still
areas
have to
discovered
apply
and
renown to
Lilith
that.
Right, that's what I
altars,
was just trying to
you
clarify
get the
what it is
renown for
today
those
for alts is different
starting
than what
out.
it will be in season reset, right? So today with alts, I clear all on my account. I get it across all my characters. So you're saying when we do a season reset, and if you clear it all on a
you get
character,
600
or if we have a
and
map that's revealed in the Eternal Realm, when I go into the season, the map will be clear.
Right.
I'll have the renown for that, but I won't have like potentially the max 80 obels and
Right.
the Paragon automatically unlocked because I haven't discovered enough. I haven't gone and hit all those waypoints that would fill that bar.
Right.
Yeah.
But you
And-
will have the renown for revealing the map, and you'll have the renown for collecting the altars of Lilith, to the extent
Okay.
that you have done that.
Right.
Yeah, and-
so that's about
that'll trigger the other
690.
things like
That's
potion.
almost 700.
Yes. Yeah.
And Mr. Joey P.
So what is that, one,
you get
300,
the renown from the fog.
600?
Who's Joey P? Is that one of the community?
You start off with
members?
the skill points
Joey P.
in every area
That's
at that point.
but yeah.
Question from our own team as associate designer.
He mentions.
Okay, maybe
you
not
get
wo-
the
maybe
renown
not
from Fog Warfare and
Okay,
Altars
just
of
stand.
Discovery, which is what Joe had just mentioned. But then
You'll be
enough to
close,
get you through
though.
The first 2 tiers of renown in each zone. So that's
So that was my fault. I thought it worked the way it works in the Eternal now. It doesn't. It's basically we're just preloading you a bunch of renown that will then unlock the stuff for you. I get it. Yeah.
Got a pocket Joey P over there.
I know,
Pocket Joe P.
You
Pocket
almost
Joe
get
P.
the first 3 in just about every
well,
one of them.
We, well over the time estimate that I thought we were going to have, so I
Yeah, really.
apologize, everyone.
That's your fault.
We're eating into our lunch. But I do want to thank everyone for tuning in. This is our first Campfire Chat. Again, Campfire Chat's really good opportunity for us to actually talk with the community, address specific topics that players have been talking about, and at the same time, just chat.
Yeah,
Which
I
is
mean, the intention is we want to have more ad hoc, informal. We don't want to have to wait till some big thing or whatever. Like, this is a game we're all playing and want to talk about. So we just want to be able to not have this like, okay, the third Thursday of every month we're doing this. Like, we just want to be able to go like, hey, let's talk about the game and with the community. So we're going to try to do these more often and keep them light, keep them casual as best as we can.
Yep, and obviously we still have the hardcore race going on. We actually posted an update on social media yesterday about how many people were up there.
Still like
700. As of yesterday, still like 700 slots for people to make it on the statue.
We're actually digging the hole for the statue
funny.
on campus. So they're pouring the cement thing to the statue can go on top of. So
Ron's always giving spoilers.
What, that we're putting the statue on campus? How is that a spoiler?
It's just like it's blocked off. No one can like see it. Even internal people can't see it. You know.
I'm just saying it's kind of cool. I've never had that before in a game where your name, like as the development team is walking to lunch, they can see your name on the statue. I think it's kind of cool, and that reminds us of our community and our fans out there who are playing the game, and so.
I mean, the
and
reward
people,
is
oh my God, first
pretty
time, like, I get the
ripped, just
first thing,
saying.
but we made it 1,000 for a reason. We wanted people to be able to enjoy the story and play the game at their pace, and we wanted to get through, our first 10 days plus early access, so that people didn't feel, because we knew as our production director often says, it's going to be a little rock and roll, and we knew for hardcore, bold people who decided to do a hardcore like on our first day, because definitely a little rock and roll. But we wanted people to have that opportunity.
Oh
So
my
there's
gosh.
still,
there's
700 spots available, so
everybody's
if you wanna
freaking
go
out about the
hardcore,
renown in chat right now, dude.
Today could be
Oh
the day,
my
or
goodness,
I'm
big
sure
L's,
there's,
L's,
lots of
L
people
renown,
who
L
are
renown. That is their entire chat,
There'll be
L
something
renown.
on BlizzCon in the statue. Who knows?
Oh
Yeah, who
no.
The
I
other thing
mean,
that I did
I'm
want
okay
to
with it.
remind
I
people
would
is
have
that obviously
regrinded
our
it,
next developer update live
but
stream, we'll be talking about that date.
I don't know. I think they
soon, but
did an
we are planning
okay
for that to be in
compromise.
July. We'll be
They could
going
probably
over
do the
season one
strongholds
details
again
then.
for waypoints, but
Season 1 details.
Ooh,
We'll
I just
actually
wanted
know
to do
what
that
it is.
in unison with you. That's all.
I know.
grinding a little
And
bit
so
for the
the zombie
Paragon
thing,
points or
we're gonna
Yeah,
whatever
we're going to talk about more about zombies.
Zombies.
is the one that I feel like they would definitely not give out.
It is not.
But-
If you didn't watch the previous.
Luckily, you have some
So
skill
now
points
I
to
have
start.
Wait, you can't have an inside joke.
This is
that
a
people don't
joke
know.
from the previous stream.
Right.
It
We
is
joked
not
that
zombies.
It is not zombies. Zombies was our illustration.
So everybody will at
example
least
of what
have
the season
5
could
skill
be,
points to
but it is
start,
not.
which is
So do not- that
huge
was
because
referring to
if you're
that.
skipping the
But yeah,
campaign,
so make sure
it
to
felt
tune in for
very
that,
rippy
and of course,
to not have
you know,
any skill
we'll have
points
more
in
of this
hardcore,
Campfire
just
chat.
saying.
There's still lots of updates that are coming here.
Even though I can skip the campaign.
Yay,
Yay, Tiffany!
keep rolling, just keep rolling.
And we'll have of course all those patch notes and details up on the site once those are available. As you guys heard, a lot of these changes are going to be coming before season 1. So we'll make sure to keep you guys informed. Make sure to follow us on social at Diablo on Twitter, on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, etc.
Here, smash that subscribe button for you, Adam.
Oh my goodness.
Like and subscribe. But yeah, thank you guys again, and we'll see you on the next stream.
Even though that's literally what I'm about to say here in a second. Alright, cool. So hopefully they just have some ambient music. But yeah, that's that. I'm going to throw this up completely on the YouTube channel. So yeah, I guess mainly the one thing, I mean, obviously people are spamming chat El Renown. And overall, I mean, it is, they could be a little bit more, like the strongholds. They could give us the strongholds. They could give us some of those things that were also revealed in the map that we've already done. That way you have 6 skill points, or no, sorry, not 6. What was that 10? 10 skill points. There we go. Yeah, so 10 skill points. That would be cool. But let's see, go ahead and swap this back real quick before they like do something and change to whatever. Anyway, but yeah, overall, you know, the renown thing, it is what it is. I'm not that upset with it. I will grind because I'm going to be doing dungeons anyway, so I'll probably get most of the Paragon eventually. I probably won't just grind one dungeon to level in that case. I'll probably go around to all the dungeons and try to hit a few side quests while doing the dungeons, and that'll probably be the way I try to level up. But for the most part, you know, for this area and this area, you get 2 skill points right away, essentially. So that's not that bad. But the other ones you only get somewhere here, and you'll be like 50% to this one. So that works. I think that's kind of okay. It would be nice to have a little bit more. Other than that, though, the other big thing that they didn't do that I wanted to be addressed is literally right here, item power, or not item power, item required level 83. If this was really good, like, why can I find a necromancer weapon if I won't be able to use it till I'm level 83, even if it's going to be garbage? Like, I've literally got a required level 60 necromancer weapon that is 811 item power. I'm almost never going to find that on my sword. And if I do, then my necro would have to be level 83 currently, if I find it in the next like 5 minutes, to even use it. That's a huge problem. So, hopefully they fix that. But anyway, I'm going to do the outro for the YouTube thing. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe, all that usual stuff in the description below. Twitch, Twitter, Discord, Instagram, TikTok. Let me know in the comments what you thought about everything they talked about, what I said and stuff, and, you know, how big of an L is the renown. And hopefully am I copium on the thing. But yeah, that'll be it for this one, though. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. Peace!